right, everybody. Our next break is our special guest break tonight. We're joined by the television play-by-play voice of the Columbus Blue Jackets, Steve Mears. And showing up there. Oh, there you are. It wasn't showing
Hello.
up. Hey, Steve. All right, so I guess first things first here. So I was told you're a big collector of hockey cards. So if you want to tell us a little bit about when you started collecting, the things you collect, how that goes.
Well, I don't know about big collector, but what I was back in the day in the 90s, just that was one of the avenues into the whole sports world was just getting a chance to collect the cards of your heroes. And I was probably like a lot of people then around the time of the pandemic who got back into the hobby. We had a lot of free time on our hands, a little extra money. So there was obviously not much going on in the NHL world. So got back into it. And I was amazed with what I found. I mean, such drastic difference from when I was younger. I mean, I go back to the best day of the month was when the Beckett baseball card monthly came in the mail, the actual mail. And I still have pretty much all those Beckett hockey card monthlies, including the first one with Wayne Gretzky on the cover. All of them, football, baseball, basketball. I collected everything, but in particular, baseball. That was really the first one, and then hockey as I got into hockey a little bit more. So I've just kind of continued a little bit, gone to some shows, been to the Pittsburgh show there. Used to go to the old Expo Mart in Monroeville, just being a Murraysville native, so it was right in my backyard basically. And I have a ton of stories about meeting some of my heroes there with the autograph signings at the old Expo Mart, and now in the same general vicinity, I've been to the more modern version of the collectibles show, which is just so much fun. So yeah, I wouldn't say big collector. Got a lot of things going on right now with the new job, the hockey season with the Blue Jackets, and a 2-year-old at home. But it is really such a fun hobby. It's cool to see this new iteration. And there's so many different ways to get involved now, whether it's the traditional store or it's kind of like what the program that you're doing here, or going to a show, or going on eBay. I mean, it's completely different from when I was 12 years old.
Yeah, it's there's so many different avenues now and different streams. And then since Fanatics has gotten involved, we have the big Fanatics Fest in New York. So I mean, it's pretty crazy with all the different ways we can meet all the stars and things as well.
Yeah, it's great. It really is. And I actually have probably my all-time favorite card. I have it right here with me. And this I got it was at an Italian restaurant that sold, this is classic 90s, sold sports cards and memorabilia in the front entrance of the restaurant. And this is in Wildwood, New Jersey. And so it would have been early 90s. And I cracked open the foil pack and I got my all-time favorite card, Ken Griffey Jr., 89 Upper Deck, and I can still see it as clear as day. It's card number 1, and I knew that. So I ripped open the foil, and I saw the 1. That was the first thing. This 1 is the first thing that I saw, and it was just exhilarating, sitting at the table with my whole family getting ready for dinner, and I crack open this while we're waiting for our food, and I see that number 1. I knew it was Ken Griffey Jr., one of my all-time favorite baseball players. So to still have this one is really special. Someday I'll tell my son that story and maybe pass it along to him, along with a bunch of other cards.
That's great. Put you over here. You did mention about the first Beckett with Gretzky on the cover. Now, obviously, huge story in hockey this year. Ovechkin passed the career goals record. How do you feel? Do you feel that Ovechkin is now on that Mount Rushmore as the all-time goal scoring leader? Do you think maybe he's still outside because he's just a goal scorer? How would you rank Ovechkin?
Yeah, definitely adds points to his score, so to speak, as far as the all-time greats. I mean, he has one of the most coveted records now in all of hockey. It's tough to push off any of the current Mount Rushmore people right now. I mean, you think about from my area, Mario and Gretzky alone, and what they were able to accomplish, and what's speaking of the Cards, one of the great things is like now I can actually afford some of the cards that I couldn't afford back then. So I was able to get a Mario rookie. I'm still working on the Gretzky rookie. That's on the bucket list. I would love to get my hands on one of those. I had a shot at it was like I think it might have been an 8, and it was somewhat like the price wasn't that extraordinary. This was like before the pandemic, and I'm kicking myself that I didn't take the plunge and get the classic Gretzky with the blue border and the skate background, and maybe someday. But was able to get a Mario rookie. That was always the dream card. But yeah, those two guys alone. Then you throw in Bobby Orr and Gordie Howe, and now Sidney Crosby. So yeah, that Mount Rushmore is getting crowded, and it definitely sparks a lot of debate.
Absolutely. As we have a work debate, we have somebody here that claims Mark Messier is one of the most underrated players of all time. Says he's a top 5 guy, and of course, being in Pittsburgh, everybody else argues with him about Messier.
Well, he's up there. I mean, you look at the numbers that he put up, and then to win what 5, 6 Stanley Cups? It was 6. All of them with the Oilers, and then especially that iconic '94 Rangers team to lead them as one of the great leaders of all time. I mean, he's up there. He's not on that Mount Rushmore for me, but he is awfully close. Certainly a top 10 player in the history of the game. That's a rookie card that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, really. Like nobody really talks about the Messier rookie as being one of the classic hockey cards, but it's another one I'd like to get my hands on someday.
Yeah, I don't collect hockey as much, more just a few of the Pittsburgh guys. But yeah, just collecting other sports. There's like Tony Gwynn, his rookie cards. There's really no love for those. I mean, they're so cheap. And the legends of football, throughout the '80s, like Jerry Rice, Steve Young, Joe Montana, those guys. I mean, those cards aren't expensive at all. It's kind of different to see, the newer guys selling for thousands and thousands, and the old guys that have just one still under 100. So.
Yeah, I always remember the Barry Sanders one. My brother had that one. We were all big fans of Barry Sanders, a lot of Emmitt Smith, and then all the great quarterbacks of that generation. But you're right. Yeah, we had the Steve Young, and it wasn't in good condition. And I think to this day, it's not graded, but we had some early Joe Montana card. And as my brother collects a little more football than I did, so he had a ton of Emmitt Smith. He had the Steve Young, and he still has it, I think, in his childhood basement or bedroom. And but I was probably starting with baseball, and I've always been a lifelong baseball fan, and then getting into hockey. So those are my two favorites. But basketball as well. I mean, I was growing up in the era of Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon, Alonzo Mourning, Shaq, and then eventually getting into Kobe. And we just missed I'm 45 years old. I just missed the Jeter, Tom Brady, Kobe Bryant, like that generation of sports stars. I was a little too old for that. I wish I had been collecting as fervently for that generation as I was for the baseball days of Frank Thomas and Ken Griffey Jr. and Cal Ripken.
I'm upper 30s. I have to count back anymore. Upper 30s. I wonder how many times I pulled Tom Brady rookie cards and was like, who's this bum? And just tossed him aside.
Yeah, of course.
Nobody thought Tom
Jeter
Brady was
too. I mean, Jeter was just coming in as I was getting out of the hobby. So the same thing with Brady and a lot of basketball stars as well, like Kobe Bryant. And it's like the story that everybody has. You just kick yourself if you just had the crystal ball and just could have bought a few more packs and maybe gone to a few more shows and gone after the guy that ultimately would win so many Super Bowls like Tom Brady.
Yep. All right. I don't want to hold you up too late tonight. I know you said you have a 2-year-old, so I'm sure your time's probably pretty limited. But we'll go over the list here, and then we'll start breaking. And I do have some questions in for you. Again, everybody watching, it's open. Ask some questions. Again, play-by-play guy for the Blue Jackets here. That's got to be exciting. Did you always want to be a play-by-play guy? Did you wanted to do the announcing of sports, or was that something that you kind of went with along the way?
No, that's when I was 10 years old. I knew I wasn't going to be good enough to play in the NHL, so just really wanted to be like Mike Lang, the late Mike Lang, who was really he always has been my broadcasting hero. So I wanted to be like him, and just thought it was the coolest job to be able to get in for free, and then to be able to talk to the audience about the game and to cover a team and a season and the entire league and yeah, as I said, collecting cards was just one of those avenues that you take, so you follow along and you're up to speed on all the great players, like who's trending in the right direction. Those Beckett Hockey Card Monthlies, I remember they had the hot cold section, so you like immediately flip through and you wanted to see, okay, who's number one, like who's trending in the right direction, and whether it was Pavel Bure or Patrick Waugh or Timu Solani at the time, or Mario or Yager. So yeah, it was. I just wanted to follow along the game, and I thought that was a great way to do it. And then eventually you take the steps going into college, studying that profession, and then getting a job in the minors and so forth. So you take the steps necessary to get there. You get some breaks along the way, and now just still thrilled to be here in Columbus, which is a great city. And we just had a fantastic season. That it's a young team that's on the rise.
Yep. All right. Well, let me read through this real quick, and then we'll keep going. So we have Brandon here with the Ducks, Paul with the Bruins, Patrick the Sabres, Jacob with the Flames, Eric the Hurricanes, Brian with the Blackhawks, Scott with the Avalanche, Dave the Blue Jackets, Yanni with the Stars, Brian with the Red Wings, Joseph the Oilers, Christopher with the Panthers, Patrick with the Kings, Sean with the Wild, Yanni with the Canadians, Tyler with the Predators, Girolamo with the Devils, Patrick, back-to-back here with the Islanders and the Rangers, Jacob with the Senators, Philip with the Flyers, Dave with the Pens, Brian with the Sharks, Aiden the Kraken, Christopher the Blues, Wayne with the Lightning, Sean with the Leafs, Christopher with the Utah. I guess now we can change that over to Mammoths, huh? Jacob with the Canucks, Michael with the Golden Knights, David the Capitals, and Aiden with the Jets. So we'll get going here. I have 15 boxes in this. They're throughout the last few years here. We'll get going. Our first one here is 2022-23 SP Authentic. So I do have some questions in earlier. I had mentioned. One of the other ones here, since we're on the topic, is Craig asked, do you have a favorite or a moment that you consider the best that you were on the call for?
Oh, there have been a lot of great memories, and been in the league now doing it for 18 years. There's one goal that really stands out for me, and that was Crosby's goal in Edmonton. It was a regular season game. I've done plenty of playoff games, but the overtime goal he scored against Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers, 6-5. It was hockey night in Canada, and it was just a big event with the Penguins and the Oilers. And it was like kind of Crosby saying, "Oh, hold on just a second. I'm not ready to give up the throne just yet as the best in the world," and scored one of the signature goals of his career. I think that's one that will always stand out because it had it all. It had the drama of the game, it had the style points, it had overtime and high scoring, and that was really fun. But I've been lucky. I've been able to call 4 Stanley Cup Finals, so a World Junior in 2017 with a team that almost the entire group went to the NHL and won gold in Canada against Team Canada. So there are a lot of highlights and just very lucky that I've been able to cover players like Crosby and Malkin, and now here in Columbus, Zach Werenski had just such an unbelievable season. So it's a privilege just to be able to do this once. That's all I ever wanted to do was just cover one game. So now, having done this for 18 years, I'm just very blessed.
Yeah, it's quite a accomplishment there to be able to call, live out your dream, and then to be able to call for the hometown team. That's got to be pretty awesome to have hit that. Let's see here. Going back to collecting, I did have a question from somebody saying, what's one piece of memorabilia that you would like to own? So not trading card, but memorabilia.
Oh, yeah. I actually have 3 stadium seats in my basement here. And there's 2 from the Igloo. There's 1 from the Montreal Forum, which I cherish. I got that in the 90s, very lucky. And 1 from the Philadelphia Spectrum. So I think if there was a piece of memorabilia, it'd probably be something to add to that collection. I would love a chair from one of the classic stadiums, one of the other classic stadiums. I'm talking Boston Garden, Chicago Stadium, the old Madison Square Garden, Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. So, or what did I leave out? The Olympia in Detroit. Any of the original six, that classic era of hockey arena seats. I think that's something that would be on my bucket list.
That's a cool thing there. So do you have them like down for people to sit? Do you have them mounted on the wall?
Well, we just moved here, so they're in the basement right now. They're not exactly living room furniture. They're not living room worthy. Maybe someday I'll be able to build the classic man cave where I can watch hockey games and everything. But yeah, it's two of the orange seats from the Igloo, and those are really special because I grew up going to games since the first Cup in 1991. So just to think of the history and as I said, the Montreal Forum. This is like one of the great cathedrals in NHL history. And it's a great seat too, because it's got the Canadiens logo on the side. They did a real good job of having some emblems on the seat back that has the exact seat location and a nice Canadiens logo. So they presented it very well back then. And I can't believe that I got it. It would have been 1997. I was in high school. And I just saw online that the Montreal Forum was being torn down. And if you wanted to get on, you could buy a seat, and it wasn't that expensive either. So I got a chair from the Montreal Forum, which is just so cool. And then the Spectrum, people in Pittsburgh don't really care for the Philadelphia Spectrum, but that's also a very iconic hockey arena and just an arena that has so much history. Even though I didn't see a game there, but really historic venue for the next six that came along in the expansion era with Pittsburgh and St. Louis and LA and so forth.
That's cool. My memorabilia collection's not that big. I'm in the same boat as you. Like, we moved into a house a few years ago, and I haven't made anything up yet to display anything. So I kind of haven't hit a lot of memorabilia yet. There's one for us. Any great stories from the road, traveling around with the teams that you can share?
Oh yeah, there's so many. I mean, it's really fun. It's that's where you get to know the players and the coaches because you're on the same plane, you're in the same hotel. It's not like you're going to dinner with them every night, but you're just in that sphere, so you get to know them and they get to trust you. They know that you're part of the team. You're not like just some random media member who's along for the ride. But one that really stands out in particular about Sidney Crosby, we were in Toronto, and as you would imagine in Toronto, the autograph seekers are plentiful in Toronto, especially when Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin come to town. So we're outside getting ready to take the bus to the arena in Toronto, 4:30 bus, and that bus leaves at the stroke of 4:30. I mean, there's nothing. It would have to be an act of God that would stop that bus from leaving because the players want to get to the arena and get started on their pregame rituals and so forth. And Sid comes out, and he's always very gracious. He signs the autographs, and he gets on the bus, and 4:30 hits, and the bus starts to pull away, and we hear in the back of the bus, "Hey, hold up, hold up." And he had seen that there was one kid with a Crosby jersey who didn't get an autograph because it was such a big mass of people. So he goes to the front and says, hey, to the PR guy, go get the jersey. I'll sign it. PR guy runs out, grabs it, and brings it over to Sid, signs it, and then like to pull away in that bus and look out the window and see that kid's reaction when at first he was so disappointed, and then he has this jersey handed to him, and Sid had signed the back of it. I mean, just that joy, I'll never forget that. And there are very few players, very few athletes that would do something like that. But that's Sidney Crosby for you in a nutshell. There aren't many people that could stop that 4:30 bus, but he certainly can for that reason.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's what we like to hear about the top guys too, is that they do nice things for the fans like that. I mean, a lot of them do that we don't hear about, but some of those guys like Crosby, we do hear a lot about how good of people they are, and I think that just makes their stardom that much better.
Yeah, hockey is filled with those guys. Sid's on another level, but you think of all the classy individuals that I've come across, from Wayne Gretzky to Nicholas Lidstrom to Joe Stakic and all the greats of past generations as well. It's a really special sport and league, and we're very lucky to have ambassadors like Crosby and Mario and Gretzky and even the previous generation. They all learned. Like Gretzky learned from Gordie Howe, Mario learned from Guy Lafleur. Jean Beliveau was a big influence for so many French Canadians of a previous generation. So it is really special to watch that lineage and to see that class being passed on. And Sid's doing it now with the young guys that come in the league, and he's going to the World Championship, and he's going to be working with a lot of young Canadians, and the Four Nations was a great example as well. That these young guys, they just look at him with such reverence, but they always come away talking about his demeanor and the way he treats people off the ice, not so much about his play on the ice, which speaks for itself.
Yeah, that's great. Like I said, we love to hear good stories about our favorite players. We have another question here. Do you have a favorite enforcer of all time?
Well, I guess I have to say my partner, Jody Shelley, now, because he's my broadcast partner. So I definitely get some grief if I didn't choose him. But just thinking back to my childhood, the Penguins had some great ones, and I got to work with Jay Caulfield. He was one of them. I love the classic guys. I mean, Bob Probert, Marty McSorley, Ty Domi. He's been in the news. You see him on TV a lot because his son's playing in the playoffs right now. Craig Berube is the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he's top 10 in penalty minutes in NHL history. So I love the old school guys, and I always enjoyed a good scrap when I was younger, going to games and seeing some of the battles and everything. But right now, Jody's my all-time favorite because we work together, and he's a joy to work with.
Now, are you somebody that likes to see the fighting, or are you more of the new school crowd that wants to see the fighting go away?
Yeah, well, it's had a resurgence here lately with the Four Nations face-off with the 3 fights at 9 seconds, right? And there's some tough players in the league, and I think the toughest in the league is on the Blue Jackets, and that's Matthew Olivier. And I watched him with, I think, 14 or 15 fights this season, and he fared well in just about all of them. So, it seems like it's had a resurgence. We've seen some pretty heavyweight bouts the last couple of years, and then you see players like Matthew Tkachuk and Tom Wilson who are willing to do it. And they just play a hard style, and they're playing right now in the playoffs. But yeah, and I also came from a minor league hockey background, which had some very entertaining characters that had 300, 400 penalty minutes. And that was part of the appeal, especially when I was in the minors. I was in Louisiana. It was a non-traditional hockey area, and they loved the fights. So I know the pros and the cons, and I see both sides of it. But at the end, I always go back to that phrase. There's always the cliche that people have used over the years about fighting is like no one gets up and leaves the arena when the gloves get dropped and there's a scrap going on.
Absolutely. I always love to see the fights. I know, like I said, a lot of people don't believe it's part of the modern game, but I think there's always going to be room for that. Just there's that crowd that wants to see it. But you had mentioned the current playoffs. I know right now I think Florida just took a lead in that game. Do you see anybody standing out that you think might be the favorites to take it this year? Do you see some good matchups coming up? How do you feel about the current playoffs?
Yeah, it's been an unbelievable postseason so far. I was lucky enough to do a few of the games with TNT, and we saw 2 thrilling overtime games that our crew did. This Edmonton team, and it started really with one of the games that we did where they were down 2-0 in their series against the LA Kings. They haven't lost since. And remember, that's the team that went all the way to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final last year. So I wonder about the Edmonton Oilers, the momentum that they have right now. They're going to be going back to Edmonton up 2-0 against the team that I thought was the leading contender for the Stanley Cup. That was the Vegas Golden Knights. And Edmonton has done very well so far on the road to be up 2-0 in that series. You wonder, is this the classic hockey situation where a team loses first and learns from it and then wins the next year? Now, Edmonton there has some injuries, and you wonder about their goaltending, although their goaltending's been really good here lately. So I wonder, though, hockey history is filled, and probably sports history too, filled with those examples of great teams that suffered brutal losses beforehand and then learned from it. And it was part of the process. It was part of the journey. The New York Islanders dynasty famously started with multiple disappointing, devastating playoff losses in the late 70s. Edmonton had to lose to the Islanders before they started their dynasty. And there are plenty of others. The Penguins, of course, lost in a Stanley Cup final and then won it in 2009. Florida did the same thing here recently. So I just wonder, is this the year for the Edmonton Oilers after going so far, coming so close last season, or is this the year where they get the job done?
Yeah, I think that puts a big bump into the stock of Connor McDavid there too. Once they get that cup win, that's what he needs.
I've got it. I've got one of his rookies, so I'm always like secretly rooting for McDavid to win scoring titles and eventually get that first Stanley Cup because I made quite a hefty investment in a McDavid rookie a few years ago. So always like to see him doing well, just from a personal standpoint.
Now, with for your team there, the Blue Jackets, I know you were saying about their incredible run there. I know they didn't quite make it back to the playoffs, but do you see something in the offseason that they could address to put them over the hump there? Something that maybe what they're missing as a team.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest question is in goal, and that's so often in the game of hockey. If you don't have the goaltending, you really have no chance. And the Jackets didn't have consistent goaltending this season. They had some pockets where it was very good. They had Jet Reeves, who was a young guy who came up from the AHL at the end of the season. He pretty much won every game in the final 2 weeks. And then Elvis Merzlikins was the number one goaltender. He was very good mid-season and then dropped off, and they're looking for more consistency from him. So I think goaltending. In this sport, that's really what it all comes down to. There's a phrase that I heard that said that they call it hockey, but it really should be called goalie, because if you don't have it, you have no chance. And look at the Penguins were the same thing this year, really struggled in net. A lot of other teams, you have to have at least competent goaltending and consistent goaltending. And you don't need Patrick Waugh in his prime or Dominik Hasek, but you do have to have some degree of consistent net minding in this game. And if you don't, you have really no shot at a long playoff run. So that's the one area I think the Blue Jackets will make a priority in the offseason. But overall, it was a very successful season for a team that didn't make the playoffs. They had zero expectation coming in and had just had a remarkable year. One of the greatest stories in sports. Year started with a tragedy, and then eventually they make a run toward the end, and they fall 2 points short of making the playoffs when nobody on earth would have predicted them to even be in contention. So very successful season, and it's only going to be up from here. All these young players just getting better and better, high draft picks, and yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time here in Columbus because everybody knows the future's really bright.
Yeah, that's a great thing to be able to look forward to too. Whenever you can see the team building, the momentum carrying on, and you see what's going on there, and it helps to build the anticipation whenever they finally do get over the hump. So that'll be an exciting time there for sure. But you had mentioned about Vegas that you thought that they was a favorite. I did have a question earlier as well. Somebody asked, do you think they need to tweak how they do the expansion teams? Are they too strong, too fast?
Yeah, it's a good question. I will take this iteration way before I take the 90s version of expansion teams. And if you are old enough to remember that, San Jose Sharks, early Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning, and Atlanta Thrashers, Nashville Predators, they were horrendous starting out. They were really behind the eight ball right away because they were just getting throwaway players from different teams and being pieced together. Blue Jackets were in that mix too. And the expansion rules weren't all that favorable. So they really had no chance to succeed right out of the gate. Now, Vegas was a unique circumstance, and they go to the Stanley Cup final in their first season. But it was a unique circumstance because they got a franchise goalie, going back to the goaltending discussion. They got a franchise goalie because of the Penguins' dilemma that they were in with two great ones at the time in Fleury and Murray, and had just won the Stanley Cup with Murray, who had won back-to-back cups. So they were able to benefit from that Penguins dilemma that they were in. And then they get a franchise goaltender. He takes them all the way to the Stanley Cup final. They lose to the Washington Capitals. But yeah, it's I think I like the way it is now because these teams have to be competitive. You're trying to grow the game, and you have to give the new franchises at least a competitive chance to start out and generate interest in the market. And even the Seattle Kraken, they didn't make the playoffs the first year, and then they did the second year, and now they've struggled here since. But at least they're competitive, and the playing field is somewhat even here. But I think Vegas was just a unique circumstance. One, they had the goalie because of that situation with the Penguins, and then general managers, because it was the first time around with these rules, made some unbelievably boneheaded decisions. You look at some of the players that they just let go: William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, Alex Tuch. They just like some Shea Theodore, and now they've gone on and they've become stars at times with the Golden Knights. I think the second time around, the GMs learned their lesson and they were much more savvy and much smarter with the decisions that they made. So Vegas was a unique circumstance. And eventually, when the league expands again, which I think they will, then it'll be favorable odds and rules for that team, but it won't be an overwhelming situation like the Golden Knights were.
Yeah, I can remember whenever the Golden Knights were coming in, there was a lot of talk about, man, they're going to be pretty good because so many teams had. I know the rule. I can't remember the rules exactly, but I know so many teams had to give up players that they normally wouldn't have wanted to because of the way the contracts were structured, and it really did. I mean, obviously we saw the Golden Knights perform well, so yeah, I mean I think that's a strong balance thing there for the league. I mean, like you said, you don't want the teams to come in and struggle. You know, we want to see them come in and be competitive so the market actually fills up. So I'm sure that's a tough thing there for the league to manage on that. So
yeah, you want competitive teams. You don't want these bottom feeders, and it's not that they're always going to be bottom feeders and teams that just don't have good seasons. But if you're old enough, you know those San Jose Sharks teams in the '90s, they were atrocious. I mean, not even in the same league as some of the upper echelon teams. So, like my favorite team there, like the Penguins of the '90s with Mario and Yager, would go into San Jose, and it would be like, okay, they're at least good for 4 points tonight. How many more are those guys going to get? Because it was guaranteed, and inevitably the final score was like 8-1 or 10-0. And Mario would have 7 points, and it would just be kind of a joke. But we loved it because it was our hero who was just lighting it up. So, yeah, it's a better league when you don't have that type of disparity. And yes, this year, San Jose wasn't very good. Chicago wasn't very good. Far cry from the top teams like Washington and Winnipeg. But what happened in the '90s was the polar opposite and the other end of the spectrum, and you just don't want that.
Yeah. Now I know for the hobby purposes, defensemen, it's kind of new to see defensemen and goalies get the love that they've been getting recently. With Macklin Celebrini, there was all that hype on him, and then Lane Hudson came out, and he's probably going to win the Rookie of the Year award. So do you see a change in that? Do you think teams are going to be drafting more towards defense? Is there more young defensive players that are going to make an impact earlier? I guess is my question there.
No, I think the type of player like a Lane Hudson or a Quinn Hughes, that type of player can thrive now in today's game, whereas they would have been eaten alive in the late 80s or 90s. They are very smaller defensemen. You get killed out there. All the defensemen seem to be 6'5" back in those days, but now a player like Lane Hudson, smallish defenseman, Quinn Hughes, there are several others that they can actually be superstars. And wow, Lane Hudson, very impressive. Same thing with Hughes. We have Zach Werenski, who's not small by any means here in Columbus, but he's a superstar. Cale Makar isn't exactly heavy, not 6'5", but he's one of the best players in the world, period. So, yeah, I think it all comes down when it comes to drafting and procuring players, though. You always go for the best one, and that could even be a goaltender. And I do think in today's game, offense is key. You want players who will drive offense. The game has never been faster, and it continues to be extremely high scoring. So I love it. I love a good 6-5 game. I want to see more offense. And it's good that in this generation, think about it, we got Austin Matthews and Nathan McKinnon, Crosby still doing his thing, and Jack Hughes, and you got so many talented young players. Kirill Kaprizov is fun to watch in Minnesota, and obviously the guys in Edmonton as well. So to have that much talent in this generation, they say it's the golden age right now for hockey, and it really is. After that first round, after the Four Nations faced up, this is a golden age to be a hockey fan and a collector, and to follow along with these superstars who are just taking over the sport. It's really fun. It's been fun to watch the Crosby and Ovechkin generation and those guys, as good as they still are, passing the torch on to McDavid, Matthews, McKinnon, Draisaitl, and so forth.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think every sport needs it. I know baseball struggled there for a while, so it's good to see hockey has those stars coming in and people that can carry it on, because we know Crosby and Ovechkin's careers are starting to come towards the end. We don't want to see them go, but we know they're going to. So having these young guys step up is definitely great for the game.
Father Time is undefeated, and I go back to that era of basketball that I talked about. I talk about the golden age of basketball with the Bulls and Jordan and Pippen, and the Lakers and the Celtics, and all those names that I mentioned, and David Robinson and Shaq, and that was the golden age of basketball, at least in my lifetime. So yeah, it's really fun, and I also think that primes of careers are longer now. Look at Tom Brady. Look at LeBron. I think Sidney Crosby could play well into his 40s if he wants to. And some of these other guys probably will as well, McDavid and McKinnon, as long as they stay healthy. But I do think with the training today, the elite of the elite have more of an opportunity to extend their careers. And that's why you see, look at the tennis stars who are able to play, like Novak Djokovic, to be able to play at this stage of life and not just be competitive, but still be winning Grand Slam titles. It's pretty remarkable with the training that goes on today. And I think that's why you see Brady succeeding the way that he did at the end of his career, LeBron still getting it done. And I have no doubt. How about Alex Ovechkin scoring 40 goals this year? I have no doubt that Sidney Crosby will continue to be an impact player even as he gets closer to age 40.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see what happens with Crosby. I know you grew up a Pens fan, so you see that it looks like the rebuilding process is here now. So they just parted ways with Sullivan. It looks like it's going to be a total rebuild. I know they have all the young picks, so be interesting to see. I think Crosby's going to stick it out with the team. I mean, do you think there's rumblings around the league that he might be somebody that does leave, tries to win another cup, or do you think he's diehard Penguins all the way?
Well, there are rumblings, but they're never coming from him. It's all these other people who are saying, well, it'd be great if he would go to Colorado or Minnesota or wherever. I have always said, like, that would entirely be his choice. If that's what he wanted to do, I think the Penguins, if he came to them and said that this is what I want, they would be amenable to it for all that he's done for the team and the city. It would 100% be his choice. And at this point, there's no indication that he's interested in moving on to another team. I think there are ways to accelerate a rebuild. Washington is a real good example. Look at the season that they're having, and they still have that core of Karlsson and Ovechkin, even though they've now transitioned with a lot of good young players, and they had some down years too to get those young players. So it is possible to do. It's not easy, and especially with the struggles that the Penguins had last year, it's going to take some major surgery for them to get back into contention, certainly in the next year or two. So if Crosby's okay with that and wants to be a part of seeing these young guys come up, and what a great resource he would be for any young player that comes through the organization and set the team up for even future success, then if that's what he chooses to do, then who are we to fault him? But yeah, there is a part of me that, as just a hockey fan, like, wow, to see him and Nathan McKinnon playing together would be pretty special. But if you want to do that, you watch the World Championship, because they'll play together for Team Canada.
Yeah, I don't know. I totally get what you're saying, because I think it'd be something else to see these guys, take another run at it. but the hometowner in me kind of doesn't want to see the star leave. But he has absolutely earned that. But nice one there.
What is it? You got to explain what's going on.
This is
what is this?
This is a pick your team break here. It's Vladislav Kolyachonok. This is Ice Premiers number 299 for the Coyotes.
Okay. Is that the guy who got traded to the Penguins?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've kind of just
This is all new to me. Remember, I'm still stuck in like 1991 with Beckett Hockey Card Monthly, so this is all new. I'm learning, but I'm gradually getting back into it. I'm still at the Expo Mart in Monroeville.
Well, the new show is there, I think, next week. So trust me, I'll be there too. But now we're here we got Kent Johnson, rookie for the Blue Jackets.
Hey, KJ, there we go. Now we're talking here. KJ had a great season. One of the top scorers for the Blue Jackets.
We have a hit here. It's going to be a Frozen in Ice, David Pasternak. And these are those rip cards. I don't know if you've seen these yet. Topps has always done those with like the Allen and Ginter. There's miniature cards inside of these. You can choose to rip them open. Or you can choose to keep them sealed. And
yeah, I've seen the mini ones, but I didn't know they did that. Is that wow?
Yep. So it's interesting because I'm always nervous myself whenever I get a rip card. I don't know if I want to damage the card that it is. But yeah, it's definitely a decision to be made because you never know what you're going to see in those minis.
There's a mini one inside the card.
Yeah.
Wow, there's so much cool stuff now. I wish this stuff was around when I was a kid. I mean, like the pieces of jersey and sticks and baseball gloves and just like the creativity, the different shapes, and obviously the autograph cards. Like none of this stuff was around. Look at this. I mean, look at it. It looks so cool.
Yeah, the ice crystals of Shesterkin there for the Rangers.
Wow, very nice. Yeah, like this stuff wasn't around. I mean, it was when I first heard about that. Like they chop up a jersey and they put it inside a card. The first time I heard about that, I was like, wow, that is like a completely different universe than the one that I grew up in. But it's a great idea, and it's owning a piece of history and just gets you that much closer to the game.
I saw one of the company owners was asked that one time because he bought a Babe Ruth bat that was certified used by Babe Ruth in a game, and he said he was going to make it into cards. And a lot of people were upset about it, and he said it could go in somebody's closet, and sit there, or they could put it in cards and let however many people enjoy that piece of history. I was like, that's a good way of explaining it, but that's a tough one.
Yeah, well, that is a good explanation. He has a point there, and if it's his, he can do whatever he wants with it. He can throw it in a dumpster for all we care. If it's yours, it's yours. So,
yep.
That is interesting. But yeah, I've seen some pretty cool, different like the net of maybe basketball or hockey, like chopped up and of a big moment, and so I do have a couple of those. I think I have a jersey patch from Andrei Vasilevsky that I got in some type of gift. So that was a pretty cool card for one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. But yeah, I got a couple sitting around here. I got this one. I talk about basketball. Here's one name I didn't mention: Charles Barkley. There's the guy. And I love this '86 Fleer. Obviously the Jordan is so iconic, but I love the red border and the names that are in this set. I mean, just and then Charles Barkley was always one of my favorites, and he's still one of my favorites as an analyst. So that was one that I got around the pandemic or even before the pandemic, just because I always wanted one of those. If I can't get the Michael Jordan, which is on the bucket list, I'll settle for Charles.
I think we all have the Jordan on the bucket list. That's one for all of us to get to.
Just such a sharp look. I mean, I like the cards that just look really good. I mean, I'm going way old school here. This 56 Topps, like this set to me is just, I love this set. I just think it's so cool with you got the headshot and then you got the action shot of this previous vintage. You got the comic on the outside. just like it makes you feel like you're back in 1956. So that's one set that I just think is really cool. And then the names in that one, it's like Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle, Roberto Clemente. I have the Jackie Robinson from that year, which is so special. So I have a very diverse set of interest. Like I got some tobacco cards. I've got modern NHL stars, some stuff from the 90s, a lot of stuff from the 90s. Obviously, it's a random assortment of things in my collection.
Now, are you a fan of modern baseball? Do you get to catch any of it? Watch any?
Yeah, a little bit. Try to, and try to pick up a few sets and some boxes for my son. Eventually, I'll pass them on to him, like the years of his birthday or his right around his birthday, give him that year's set of tops or whatever it might be. So yeah, I follow along all the stars. I mean, what Shohei Ohtani is doing is so remarkable. But I was all about Frank Thomas, Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, all those players. Cal Ripken, that was one thing I wanted to pull out was the Cal Ripken. That was one of my favorites there, Cal Ripken rookie. And like the night when he broke Lou Gehrig's consecutive games played record there in the 90s, that was one of the coolest sports memories of my life. So that was one that I always wanted this card, and then I could finally afford it. So I was really excited to get any type of Cal Ripken rookie because I just thought he was the epitome of class and that all-time record holder, but also one of the great shortstops of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I was going for there is you said you like the old style cards. Have you been grabbing the heritage boxes where they do the old styles? I know right now I think they're on 76, but some of the older heritage has those 50 styles.
Yeah. I've seen. I haven't seen those. I've seen like some of the '80s throwbacks that definitely rang a bell. I mean, I recognize them right. I'm like, oh, that's '86 tops. That's '87 tops. Like I know right away from. And of course, they were so mass produced that like you had hundreds of like boxes full of these cards. So I think it is pretty cool that you've seen some of those throwbacks, so a younger generation can take a look at some of the classic images. Like for me, that 56 tops, just the eye appeal of that design, and then also the fact that it's just the golden age of baseball and those all-time greats of Hank Aaron and those other names, Willie Mays, and the names that I mentioned. So that's a real special one for me. If I am able to win the lottery someday, I'd love to get all the big hitters, the Mantles and the Williams, and just to kind of complete that superstar list. Duke Snyder, the one I pulled up, that's not too bad either. This is from the Brooklyn Dodgers. So, but yeah, if I win the lottery, that's one thing I'd like to do is try to complete all the big names of the 56 top set.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun one. That's on my bucket list is the Clemente. I think, 55? Clemente?
Right. Year before, yeah.
As a Pirates fan, I think that's pretty much one that we have to go after. But yeah, I love those old cards. The star players like that too. And I mean, we talk to a lot of people, that collect those old sets, and it's definitely something where the shows, you go and you see the guys with their chairs at the tables and sorting through the commons from the day. Those are always fun to see.
Those shows, I mean, I went there when I was living in Pittsburgh. I went for a number of years there in Monroeville, and some of the collections are really remarkable. The old school collections, and going back, there's some of the guys have like really focused on the tobacco early 1900s, and I've got a couple of those. Not any big hitters, but just to have that piece of history and to think like over the last 120 years, where has this thing been? I think it's really cool. And then you see some of the others from the 40s, Lou Gehrig and Ty Cobb and those names and the history behind those cards, those famous ones, and Babe Ruth, and then you get into Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays and Hank Aaron and so forth. Some of the old school collections that are out there at those shows are really remarkable. I just like to go, and I'll never be able to afford all those really expensive ones, but I just like to go and just take a look. It's like you're just looking at pieces of history, and it's players that you just wish you could have seen in their prime.
Yep, my wife always goes with me to those, and I always stop by like you were saying, the old early 1900s, late 1800s cards that are graded in slabs. Those are really cool because you've never seen that stuff before. So you only see it whenever someone has it in a display case like that. So it's definitely something that's fun to see.
Yeah, I've got two of them. I got two. They're both Pirates. No names that anybody would recognize, but just and then it's actually kind of cool to look up those players. How long did they play at the majors, and what is their story? So it is a way to introduce yourself to some new names. But we all know Ted Williams and Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, and even if you're not old enough to have seen those guys, you know of the legend of those players. And even like Johnny Bench and Pete Rose and Mike Schmidt and like the next generation, we know those names. But to see some of those really old school cards and then to get a couple of them and like, okay, well, what position did this guy play? Where is he from? How long did he play for the Pirates or for the majors? And then what was the game like back then? You just wish you could be there. One, get in a time machine and go back and watch in that day, and then of course pick up a few tobacco cards along the way, and maybe you could find the Honest Wagner, and in that time machine and that crystal ball, you might grab a few of those if you could.
Yeah, that'd be nice to have in. But I speaking of meeting people from that era, I met Steve Blass. You know, obviously a huge guy here for the Pirates. There's a nice one. Trevor Zegras rookie autograph, number /99, the Ducks. But meeting Blass, and I read his autobiography, so you get to learn about how there was no draft, there was nothing like that. Somebody offered him money and they signed. So it's always neat to learn the stories of those players like that.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of reminds me of the French Canadian stars of the Montreal Canadiens. Like they basically had a monopoly on those players like Jean Beliveau and Guy Lafleur and Maurice Richard. So that's why they were able to win 5 straight Stanley Cups in the 50s and build the franchise that it became as the most frequent Stanley Cup winners and dynasty in the 70s. And one of the big reasons why is that they had the early opportunity to pick up the best French Canadian players. So they obviously did that. And yeah, it's cool. There's a backstory with all these guys that we don't know. So that's one thing I do like going on Hockey DB and just going down the rabbit hole. And it's amazing how small the hockey world is, and all the other sports are like it too. But you go around and you start like piecing these things together. Okay, well, this guy played on this team. Oh, look who his coach was. His coach Gordie Howe back in the 60s, it's fun to play that game and just kind of go down the rabbit hole. I do it all the time just in the course of my preparation for broadcast because you start stitching these names and eras together. And it's remarkable to see how many connections there are within the game and so many second and third generation players like the Kachucks who are playing. Matthew's playing right now, and his dad had a phenomenal career. So it's pretty neat when you look at the lineage of different players, and I think cards help you do that.
Absolutely. Nothing like the back of a card with the stats and the teams and all that to learn.
I know. Look at this thing, 56 tops. And not only is there a comic behind it from the Brooklyn Dodgers winning the championship, but you take a look at everything about Duke Snyder, his real name, which I didn't know was Edwin, and like all his stats from that year. It's pretty cool. I just love sitting around and taking a look at different things from my collection. This is Jean Beliveau right here, actually. And the back of it is so cool. Got an image of the Stanley Cup, and just like reading the bio about Jean Beliveau and where he's from, and because there's no other way. There isn't footage that's readily available. I certainly wasn't alive in 1963 or even 1953, so that's one career that I would have loved to have followed. That was Jean Beliveau of the Montreal Canadiens.
Here's a big one here for our last card of the break. Connor Bedard. It's a second-year card, but it's a Connor Bedard Diamond Stars autograph, numbered 5 of 5 for Chicago. That's a big hit there for Brian. We had this one too.
Brian.
Of course, the Liam Foudy with the Future Watch. Very coveted autographs there for all the rookies. That's one of the top sellers for everybody is their Future Watch autographs out of SP Authentic. All right, that does it for the box. We do have our prize here. Of course, we have an Alex Ovechkin autographed 8x10, certified authentic by Fanatics. It's a nice photo there. All right, so if you hang with me here, we'll jump over to the other screen and we're going to randomize that prize. All right, we have our names here. Minus 5 times there. And 5. And that's going to go to Brandon H. So Brandon H is going to win the Alex Ovechkin autographed 8x10, and he had the Ducks in this break. Congratulations there, Brandon. Back over here. All right, and with the playoffs going on, do you still have stuff on your schedule with TNT? Are you going to be doing some more games?
Yeah, possibly. We're going to wait and see what they have in store for us. Last year, we did something called the Data Cast, which was an alternate feed talking a lot about analytics during the conference final. So hoping that we'll get that going again. The Blue Jackets have got a lot going on this summer with the draft and different events. It's great to be a part of the organization. They include us in all these different things, even in the summertime, and just an opportunity, especially for me being new, to meet fans and get around in the community and in the city, which I'm still learning my way around. So it's really special. It's an exciting time here in Columbus, and just already cannot wait for training camp. I know we're still a long ways away, but I wish we would get here sooner to get going again with another Blue Jacket season, because I had so much fun covering this team this year. And the team treated me and my family, everybody. The fans were great. They welcomed us with open arms. So I was very fortunate being here. And as I said, the future is so bright for this team. I can't wait to see the next step for all these young guys. Like we just saw Kent Johnson there, Adam Fantilli, Kirill Marchenko, Zach Werenski, and to see their growth and what they're going to do next year after all having career years this season. It's just so exciting. I can't wait for next year.
Sounds awesome. We'll be looking forward to that. But I did live in Columbus a little bit, and I can tell you, Buckeye Donuts, White Castle, that's all you need.
Yeah, I've heard a lot. I know a White Castle, but and I did go to Bowling Green, so I've spent a lot of time here. But yeah, all those little hidden gems and different things around town. That's what this time is really good for. So good opportunity just to get around town, take the family around, and with the weather nice and just to explore a little bit, because we basically moved here and then it was training camp and the season starts and you're on the road and you're just like in the mix of the season and you just don't get much free time because with 82 games and family duties and everything. So it was really, I still have boxes I got to unpack. So I'm still trying to get settled here 100%, but yeah, I'm looking forward to finding a card show here in Columbus. I know there has to be one, so I got to do some research.
Yeah, I was there pre-pandemic, so I there wasn't much in the Columbus area whenever I was there. I think there was a couple of shops, but it wasn't too crazy of an area. I know I was only there for a few months, and we wanted to take in some Blue Jackets games and some soccer games and stuff, and we just didn't get around to it. I mean, it is a great city. We really enjoyed our time there, so glad they're treating you well and you're having a good time there as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, so we'll be looking for you on TNT. We'll be looking for you during the Columbus games next year. I want to thank you again for jumping on here with me and sharing some stories and telling us about your what you're looking forward to as well. I think it's always exciting for us to hear, and especially somebody so close to the team. It's a great thing for us, and we really appreciate it.
All right. Well, you guys do a great job. Seeing you, seen the logo and the table at this card show, and ordered some stuff. And keep up the good work. It was cool to be a part of this whole process, and I just love seeing where the hobby has gone over these last few years. It's really taken off since the pandemic. So it's always nice to talk to fellow card collectors, and maybe we'll run into each other at that show in Monroeville at some point again. I'd like maybe I'll have to take the drive over, and if I can't find one here in Columbus, I'll make it back to Monroeville, because that's always fun. It's nice to see so many fans and friendly faces there, and people that just are really passionate about the hobby.
Yeah, I think at the one next week, Bob Airy's there, and you probably worked. I don't know if you overlapped with Bob Airy whenever he was with the Pens.
I worked with him the whole time, pretty much. Yeah, 6 years. He's one of my good friends. So that's awesome to hear. Just a wonderful guy, and yeah, maybe I need to make my way over. I should take the drive. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm gonna do some research and find a show here in Columbus.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I said, it's a great city, so I think you're really gonna enjoy your time there. But again, thank you, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks so much.
Mhm.